February is Black History Month, and African American officers and NCOs have a long history with the U.S. military that reaches beyond their first pairing that took place during the Revolutionary War. In this first of a two-part series honoring Black History Month, our Susanna Avery gives us a glimpse of the rich heritage of African Americans in the military, both on and off the battlefield.
Centuries before President Barack Obama assumed the role of Commander-in-Chief, there were countless battles fought by black men and women in uniform.
In the Revolutionary War, there was a number of free blacks who served alongside white soldiers.
Even though they also served freely in the War of 1812, black men were initially turned away when they tried to join the Union Army in 1861.
In the Civil War, black soldiers had a lot to prove.
Some of the Confederate soldiers that owned slaves brought them to the battlefield for menial labor. But the Union Army saw so much more in the slaves that escaped.
So Frederick Douglass and others approached Abraham Lincoln and said, "Why don't you let them fight?"
Lincoln opposed the plan at first, fearing that former slaves would take revenge on their former masters.
So he said, "I tell you what, we'll forge a compromise. We will allow black soldiers to serve in the Union Army, but they must have white officers."
More than 180,000 former slaves and freedmen fought for the Union Army.
Now, to put that in perspective, the Confederacy never enlisted or had in its ranks during the course of the war over 600,000 troops.
It wasn't until 1864 that black soldiers got paid as much as their white counterparts. Fast forward 30 years to the Spanish-American War in 1898.
And the Spanish-American War does a great deal to bring this nation back together. We have a common foreign foe, Spain, and they're all wearing blue again and fighting under the Stars and Stripes.
Less than 20 years later, the war to end all wars was underway, and thousands of black men wanted to be a part of the U.S. Army.
And they sent them over to France and used them as laborers. The French Army is observing this as, this is ridiculous. You're wasting these soldiers.
But military leaders didn't think the American people were ready for all black units to fight on their behalf. So they were sent to fight next to the French.
And they fought very well. If you've ever heard of the Harlem Hellfighters, they served with their white officers as part of the French army.
And came home one of the most decorated units during the war. Even though there was still segregation among the troops, breakthroughs were coming in World War II.
So blacks fought in all theaters of World War II.
In 1948, President Harry S. Truman changed the course of history.
He issued Presidential Proclamation 9981 to desegregate the armed forces of the United States. Now, it didn't happen overnight. It took a couple of years.
The Korean War in 1950 helped.
Because now units had to be rapidly desegregated. Instead of fighting each other, they had to fight the North Korean or Chinese communists.
By the time the Vietnam War started in 1965, the military was completely desegregated.
It's always been a little bit ahead of the rest of the nation when it comes to desegregation and giving minorities a chance.
Susanna Avery, Fort Benning TV.
In the next edition of the Benning Report, we'll have the story of one retired NCO who's never viewed the color of his skin as a hindrance, even after he was kicked out of a business for being black. Stay with the Benning Report. Live Fire shows you how the Army's leaders of tomorrow are made. Welcome back to the Benning Report. Each year, thousands of newly commissioned officers come to Fort Benning to learn the skills necessary to become leaders of soldiers. It all happens in the Basic Officer Leadership Course, Phase 2. But to make this happen, the BOLC instructors themselves must be trained to the highest standards. In this edition's Live Fire, Ron Andrus takes us inside the BOLC 2 Instructor Certification Program.
No matter what their military occupational specialty, every officer in today's Army must be highly trained in the fundamentals of infantry combat arms, and the command staff here at BOLC 2 is personally ensuring this happens.
I'm responsible to train my cadre. My cadre train officers for future development for the military. Through our doors pass the future leaders of the Army. So I have to have the most competent, capable, committed, non-commissioned officers that can do and demonstrate what we expect them to do. This program brings that together. This program brings everybody to the same level.
The Basic Officer Leader Course Phase 2 has a new 3-week instructor certification program that's bringing their cadre up to speed with the latest and greatest infantry combat arms skills.
Better than 50% of my cadre are not combat arms MOSs, so they don't come with the requisite skills of infantry type training that we conduct here. We have the variety of MOSs that we have because we train all 17 officer branches.
Squad maneuver live fire, heavy weapons, marksmanship, close quarters battle. These are essential tasks that every Bullock 2 instructor must be proficient in so they can in turn provide the best and most accurate training to their officer students.
Well, we're getting everybody ready to be a part of those who are participating at the tip of the spear. We want to make sure we're doing that right. We want to make sure that we're passing on the best junior officers that we can pass on to the operational Army. So we take it very seriously. It is extremely important, and we got a lot of great cadre members out here working hard to do exactly that.
When it comes to training, Bullock 2 instructors need to be able to correctly talk the talk and walk the walk.
You have to be a professional and you have to be a subject matter expert in what you teach. If you don't, then your credibility is lost. When you talk to the students, you have no grounds and no background in which to stand if you don't understand completely the task of what you're teaching.
Certainly one of the things that we recognize is while everybody has a lot of operational experience, they might not have the institutional and doctrinal experience that we want them to have. So we want them to use precise terms precisely. We want them to be able to not only talk about what's in our manuals, but demonstrate how that is really applied on the ground.
To ensure their instructors are trained to the highest standards, the command staff is teaching them personally.
My squad is kind of the dream squad. I'm the highest paid squad leader here, and you know, my sergeant major is one of the team leaders, and one of my first sergeants is the other team leader. So they are seeing it. We are all about demonstrating proficiency. So before I train my cadre on the standard, we will show them what the standard looks like.
It's imperative that all Army officers be proficient in these fundamental infantry skills and are prepared to lead their troops in combat at any time and anywhere on the battlefield.
The days of everyone not being in the fight when we go overseas, you know, that's not the case. So it could be that finance lieutenant that comes through here and gets this field training or this live fire training, and you know, on a patrol in Afghanistan or Iraq, and the patrol leader is killed, and they turn to him and say, "What do we do now, Lieutenant?" Well, if he's come through here and understands the basic blocking and tackling and fundamentals of fire and maneuver in these infantry type tasks, then when they ask, "What do I do now?" you know, it's follow me.
We got to set the foundation, and the foundation we set today will make them successful in that operational environment and make our Army successful in the next 5 to 10 years.
The Bullock 2 Instructor Certification Program is helping to ensure that our future leaders have the skills to fight, lead, and keep our Army strong for years to come.
Ron, you mentioned this training is new, so how often is it provided for Bullock 2 instructors?
Well, it'll be provided annually and more often as needed. The command staff want to make sure their instructors stay on top of their game and provide officer students with only the best training possible.
And is it very common to see a colonel and a command sergeant major personally demonstrate and conduct training to their cadre?
Well, I've been covering training here at Fort Benning for quite a while now, and this is the first time that I've actually seen a command staff personally train their cadre in these types of infantry skills. Lieutenant Colonel Botcher and Command Sergeant Major Ferrucci are very passionate about their mission and ensuring that it succeeds.
Well, that's definitely leading from the front. Thanks, Ron. Straight ahead, one lucky soldier and her canine partner were part of the inauguration festivities, and we've got their story when we return.